Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Hanley Effect. I'm John Dyben.
I'm Rachel Docekal.
How you doing, Dr. D?
I'm good. How are you, Dr.
I
D?
am well. We got Dr. D, Dr. D, and we got Dr. Z
Dr. Z
today.
This is going to be confusing.
Not really, because she's the only one who is a child and adolescent psychiatrist who
That's right.
is going to be really interesting to both you and I as parents who are really invested in empowerment and our kids being empowered. We're going to actually talk to Dr. Z. And Dr. Z is a child and adolescent psychiatrist who is doing so much more and is leading a bit of a revolution. Dr. Z, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you and I got to talk really briefly just a month or so ago. We got to FaceTime and we're just kind of chat. And you were, I was in my office and I'm getting ready to talk to this, impressive. If anybody reads, you can read Dr. Z's CV, and she's
Very
impressive and author, and she's and it was a FaceTime of you shopping with your kid. And it was so cool. And then you let me say thank you to your kid for giving us that time. And it was so apropos to what we're talking about today about priorities and what is important. And I've talked a little bit about who you are, but we really like for me to be quiet. If she could kick me under the table, she would right now.
There's kicking.
That's right. But what we'd love to know from you is who are you, and tell us about what you're doing. But we really would love to know your story and what brought you then to doing what you're doing today.
So I am a Southern Californian, born and raised, South Asian descent. I was born in a city considered Orange County, but it's called Cerritos, California. Both my parents were immigrants. My father actually came here when he was 18. He went to undergrad and did his master's in Northern California. And then my mom and him got married, and she did her master's in Cal State Long Beach. My mom was a teacher. She was a special education teacher. My dad was an engineer. Very traditional South Asian family. I had one older brother who was adopted, and I had two younger brothers. I was the only girl. I was the apple of my dad's eye, so nothing would go wrong in my father's eye for me. I did everything wrong in my mom's eye. So there was no, fixing that. Her sons were her joy. And we were very family oriented. I had my father brought a lot of my aunts and uncles and cousins. We lived, we were a middle class family in Cerritos, and my dad had the first house where all the aunts and uncles lived together, I think till I was probably 7th grade. And I had a bunch of cousins, which were all boys. So thinking about not having a voice, wow, that was like you had 5 boys in the house and this one girl. When you're from a traditional family, very South Asian culture and is so important, right? That's like such an important point. Language is so important. Making sure you're keeping the religion. So we're Sikh. My family was Sikh American. My father was very involved within the Sikh community in not only in Los Angeles, California, but also like countrywide in the US. There was times during the 84 when the Golden Temple was, hijacked and invaded. And my father was a very well-known Sikh leader. Also, he built with multiple Sikh leaders, but he was one of the leaders who built the Los Angeles, now known as the Hollywood Sikh Temple, which is now a monument, with Tom Bradley. He was part of Tom Bradley's mayoral community organizations. I don't know all the political names, but he was an entity in that. So I saw my father also grow from a young man to a cultural and a religious leader. He wasn't like a priest or anything like that. He was just, community oriented and helped the community a lot. So we saw a lot of that growing up. Now, on top of that, I was also, raised in a very diverse home. I went to Catholic school my whole life. There was no just because my father was a Sikh, community leader, he really loved for us to learn different, religions and communities and understand that, we had a nanny who we were blessed to help, raise us. She was from Venezuela. So, we were culturally, my brother spoke fluent Spanish. And so it was like a very diverse home. And then my mother was also a special education teacher, which is such a special entity as a teacher. Later down the road, after I went to med school and I was in it, my father, was diagnosed with cancer. And after his passing, my mom also became a foster mom. So she had multiple kids in our home. So we learned about caretaking and being, part of the youth's life and taking care of others and doing so. I saw a lot of that, right? So that was kind of, I want to say, like the background I have to what I do today. That was my upbringing. Okay, it wasn't perfect. Let's just make sure we know that. There was no like, oh my God, she had this amazing family. There was trauma. There's a group of like, we were raised in a house which had strict rules. There was a place where I didn't get to go. I laugh about it now. My husband's like, I didn't get to go to prom. There was no prom for me. There was like, dad was like, no, you don't go to prom. We don't do that. You don't do sleepovers. You don't go to friends' houses and go to parties. It wasn't part of the world they understood, right? That just didn't come about. I'm born in Santa Monica, raised in the OC. I live in the Valley now. And so like there was no outside of California at that point in our lives when we were growing up. So, there was a lot of heartache and there was a lot of not having that voice. Going into the world that I wanted to go into, education was really important. My parents were such emphasis on that, and as a lot of immigrant parents, it's very, very clear there's a path they want you to have. They come here, they put in their time and effort. And, there was no such thing as creative arts. I played basketball, which was, I think, the one thing my mom was like, cool, you can do that. I'm also
Really? Basketball?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I come from a family of sports fanatics.
Okay.
I love football. Like in our house, it was the 49ers, it was the Dodgers, and it was the Lakers. And if you did anything outside of that, we have a problem. But my dad went to, he studied in Northern California. He was in Berkeley. He went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. So that age was Joe Montana. Like you didn't know anything. Right. But my brothers have kind of, my older brother played tennis. My middle brother played, football and he played also basketball. My youngest brother played, basketball. So we're tall. My dad was 6'3", so we all came from that. And I enjoyed it. And I just later in life, I also coached girls basketball. That was something before I had my own children I loved to do. So there was that place of learning community, learning teamwork, learning that, but there was a very strict rule of being educated. Here's the fallback. I couldn't read. I couldn't put words together. My mom being an educator was like, wait, you're just not interested in studying. There's some problem here. You just don't want. In 7th grade, when I went to my first private school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and dysphagia and also, multiple different of the academic features. But the public education system didn't recognize that at a time. And also having a mother as an educator, I think with my brothers who were straight A students and it was just you don't want to be educated. You don't want to work hard. Again, not her fault, but to the immigrant mentality of I'm a master's, your father's this, your brothers are this. Like, so I was like, wow, I'm not smart. Like, so now I have no more of a voice, right? Now I'm like, I am subduing myself to this place of I can't. And as we all know, when we talk to children who have disabilities in education, it's like a salesmanship. You sell yourself so you can path through what you need to do. And that's what I did from 1st grade to 6th grade. And I realized the younger generation of kids, that's what they do a lot of, and so I went through these phases. This is how I grew up, but I did end up in med school. I did end up after I went straight from high school into the foreign national program, and I went to South Asia and I studied there. I did my MBBS, then I did my MD. And it was in that moment of my internship to residency that I recognized that I did not want to go to pediatrics because it just wasn't my phase of it. But it was a very amazing attendee who was like, you would really do great with kids. And you would really do great with kids because you get down to their level. And in therapy and in psychiatry, as I have learned from my mentors, is the way to get to a child after the 5th session is for you to be one-on-one at their level. And that's when I knew that's what I needed when I was going through my growth as a young child and a teenager. And I think that was what forced me or even pushed me to become a child and adolescent psychiatrist.
My gosh.
That's amazing.
Uh,
That's amazing.
So I did not know that part of your story, but there's so much power in that. Um, so you're the founder of Listen to KidZ, and I'm hearing your story now of lots of wonderful things, right? And even even being Sikh. I mean, all of these things, special ed, being Sikh, but all of these things are about service, and so there's so many things, but this. I mean, I'm trying to imagine being in your shoes without any, not feeling the voice and not being able to read and not knowing and not having words like dyslexia and dysphagia and uh, it sounds traumatizing,
Right. I mean, and you don't know that as a young child, right? You're 13, 11, or
right?
whatever, 8 to 13 years old. You have no clue what any of this. You're now suppressing your own feelings and your self-confidence, as we know now with so many of these, disabilities and pathological and psychological diseases out there, that these aren't things that they're have control over. We have to be identificators as adults to help these young children and young youth to grow through that and not create more trauma with them. I don't think it was to anyone's fault.
And I love that because, right, every one of us, we're all parents. We've all got our kids will have stories of things that we did, right?
Wrong.
But
They will have stories that we did wrong.
So good.
that's right. That's right. But can you talk about Listen to KidZ? What is this movement and what do you mean when you say what does it mean to really listen to kids?
Whew. So, Listen to the KidZ came from me reading a book called The Art of Listening, and it really was for adults. Also going to marriage counseling. Really, that one-on-one conversational and communication ability that you have with another human being. I don't care if it's your spouse or it's your employee or it's just a person. We have a very difficult time as human beings to listen. And I can also say, unless we're trained in it, also it's sometimes difficult for us to listen to. It's a day in, day out, thing we do, and it takes a toll on us as human beings as also. So are we truly listening? So I read The Art of Listening, which has multiple books on it, and The Art of Communication, and then also my own marriage. When I wasn't able to conceive, my husband and I went through marriage therapy. And, it's interesting when you go to a therapist and they're like, there's nothing wrong with the two of you. You guys are fantastic. You just aren't communicating. And what is communication? The communication is you truly listening to someone, not hearing someone, not just putting like their voice through your ears. It is truly being quiet, unjudgmentally listening to someone. We are the most judgmental
That's right.
we're like, I don't know how to explain human beings. We are so judgmental. It doesn't matter. We're the most judgy group in any species. You don't see animals judging each other, but we do. And it really becomes not even just in listening, just watching. So to truly listen to someone, we have to be unjudgmental. I took that a step further and I said, what's the one thing I am hearing constantly in the last 10 to 15 years that the youth, that is the next generation, keeps saying to us? You don't hear me. You want me to do what you want me to do and you dictate to me. You've created this world for me, but I don't want it. So I said, okay, what can I do, the adult, to change myself so you could have a better life, or so you could have something you need, or so I could give guidance to the other adults for what your needs are. Now, for me to do that, I have to be quiet and listen, not interrupt them, not say this is all the stuff they're doing wrong and this is why we're right and this is how you're supposed to do it. Because if you think about it generationally, even before I'm considered I always forget I'm Gen X, right? I'm Gen X.
We're Gen X, so
Yeah,
we'll all be Gen X today.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We're Gen X. And then you have the millennials, and then you have the Gen Zs, and now you have the Gen Alphas. And in another 4 years, we're going to have the Generation Betas. We're going to go. Like our parents are going, the generation before them is gone. Things are going to change. But if we don't create these right guidances behind what we want them to have or to give them the right guidances, we're then leaving this generation with what they're going to change it to, whether it's good or bad. And for us to truly do that, we have to listen to what their needs are to create those right guidances. I always had this thing, the world, where the world changes, but people don't. But in true matter, people actually do change.
Right. That's right.
So I went to that, and that's where listening to the kids came from, was because I sat down and I just started listening. I just went from kid to age group, and I'm like, wow, they're all saying the same thing. We're not listening to them.
So one of the questions that we get a lot from parents, so we do a lot of prevention work, is they talk to us about social media and how kids use that as their means of communication. Very, very different from when all of us were young.
Right.
I'm just curious, as you're listening and really absorbing what the kids are saying, what are they saying to you about both social media, but how they communicate with each other?
Okay, so first of all, I disagree with the fact that kids are listening to other kids in social media, and that's a new thing. Growing up, we all listened to the older generation of youth kids, whether it was basketball players, whether it was our seniors in high school, it just wasn't on social media. It was in a different format, whether it was Teen Magazine, whether it was Vogue, whether we were listening to our older generation in different, or whether it was Dr. Drew and on K-Rock. Like, we were listening to this older generation on a different platform in the same way that this younger generation is listening to the older. That is one part of listening to the kids that we emphasize, is we want the older generation to speak more, so the younger generation actually is. What would my senior say to my 8th grader? But in a very, very more formatted form, where I actually have a place that it's safe, it's reliable, right? In the same way, I listened to K-Rock. I used to, what was it called? Loveline. And I would listen to it and I would go back and be like, oh my God, my parents have no clue what this is. Like, they don't know this stuff. But that was the same. They were my generation of older youth. So that's one thing I want to make clear to the world. It's always been happening. Just now the format is different, right? Okay. Now, through the format of this being different, there's 3 parts to this. One is, we are handing our children phones, iPads, computers, any technology that can prove social media can be on it, right? And I'm not talking about Generation Alpha yet. I'm talking about probably the Gen Zs and the millennials, right? Because that generation of parents probably also didn't know how to utilize these things, and it was given to them. And I'm going to say, like, between 2018 to 2023, we've had the worst aspect of it. And the kids say it is, because they were just given to it. They were not given boundaries. They were not given guidelines. They were just like, here, I've got stuff to do, as the adults would say, or the teachers would say, or the coaches would say, here you go, here's your thing. And they went on it, and it created a downfall for them. And they admit that. So that older generation of millennials and Gen Zs, who is now talking to the Gen Alphas, is saying, here, let me give you some advice. Don't go on it. And if you're going to go on it, let me tell you how to go on it. Because me, the adult, when I give those guidelines, they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll just tell you a very simple story this morning. And you met them, right? I have a 10-year-old young girl. She'll be 10 soon. And I have an 8-year-old. And we were at a party, and then all the parents are talking about 6, 7. And I'm like, what the heck is it? Like, I'm learning new terminology lately. And as you are guessing, we're all learning. Like, yes. What's 7? And I'm a fluent basketball watcher and basketball coach. And I remember the commentary behind what it was said was, there was a player, he was, 6'7", and he was playing like a 6'1", and that's how that whole line came. And I'm like, so why are kids saying it? And they're like, it means nothing. I'm like, so it's excitement. So I went back and I just was doing some research on what did we used to say that meant nothing. There have been words generationally that mean nothing, that kids just are like, whoa, yay. And I'm like, oh my God, that's just one of those words. And it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, there are words that obviously have derogatory and positive outlets, but I was sitting there and going, okay. So I asked my 8-year-old, where'd you hear this? He goes, well, I heard one of the 5th graders say it. He didn't hear it on social media. He didn't hear it on YouTube. Yes, my son plays video games. I'm very concerned. I'm trying to conserve that. But he does. He didn't hear it on that. He said, no, I heard one of the 5th graders say it. So that 5th grader who is now telling or, whatever, commenting on it is expressing to a 3rd grader this comment. But he's not on social media, from what I have understood, right? So those older kids who are telling the younger kids, they're like, don't go on it. Wait till you have just I mean, even I have older kids telling younger kids, don't go on Roblox anymore.
Right.
So that was what I'm hearing about social media. Now, what the problem we have is when it comes to social media and the adults, right? That's what where I go to is we, the adults, have to be adults. We have forgotten to give our children boundaries. I am not an advocate of social media till you're 16 years old. I do that personally with my own children. She's got friends. She's a dancer. She loves the fact that all her friends have it. They're 10 years old. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not going to have it. She's like, but you have it. And I said, unfortunately, I have to because that's the way and means of getting out there right now. It's not even television. It's not even media anymore. This is the only aspect I have to do the work I do. I say the adults have to be the adults in this conversation. I don't say you have to be dictatorial. I think you have to.
It's a really good point
when it comes to it. And I'm going to step back to another point. I am not the advocate, and we all have read the books. We've all read all of them. I'm not the advocate not to give my child a tablet, a phone, or a computer. Because in our world, I'm not talking about our country, in our world, technology advancement is going faster, whether it's socially, whether it's educationally, whether it's corporately, whether it's financially, it's faster than me and you are talking right now. It is advancing. But what I have done is I've created an unimportance to the phone. My daughter only takes it to her when she has late night dances. She doesn't go on it unless she has a text message that she maybe or maybe won't see after 2 days. My son uses it he's a composer for music. He uses it for composition, or he uses GarageBand, or he uses something like that. And that's it. They do have some sort of, I'm like, you will not play Roblox on it. Video games are played in front of me, around me, so I can hear what you're doing. Look, I'm not free all the time. I'm not saying but they don't get it Monday through Thursday. They don't. I'm really, and it's funny because yesterday I literally heard one of my daughter's friends, she was FaceTiming and said, I don't let my kids an hour before they go to sleep have any digital. Sometimes I'll do a television show, like a Nickelodeon show or something, because I need to get everything together and get them down to bed.
And close to the face.
Nothing close to the face.
Right.
No, nothing like that. Okay, that's me as the parent. And the girl on the phone said, oh, your parents are just different than ours. We are. Right. It's okay. Yeah. I'm not suppressing them from anything. I'm also not saying you can't have a phone. I'm just saying I am now the adult creating those boundaries for you. But also, I don't want her being 18 or 16 or 14 when she has a constant phone to be like, I can't live without this. Oh my God. What's
right.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've done that.
It's like, I just got a picture in my mind. It would be like, recruiting someone for the Army, putting them through, basic training and never teaching them how to open a parachute or and then throwing them into combat. I love that balance because the message is really clear. We hear it all the time, social media bad, and you'll have those parents out there. If you give your kid a phone or if you let your kid watch a show, I was talking to my wife, we still have 2 adult children out of the home and we still have 2 kids, school age kids in the home. And we would talk, man, this was such a bad day. I let, my son watch, TV for 2 hours or something. And the reality is we draw these lines like this is good, this is bad, and do this and do it. And that message that you have that says, be an adult. They recognize that all of these things are part of life, but and they're neither good nor bad. They're just tools. And I'm not in the same way. I'm not going to give my my youngest, my 9-year-old, you say, go out and take the chainsaw. I'm going to slowly teach him how to use it in a healthy way. Dr. D is looking at me nervous. She thinks about me with a chainsaw and she's getting nervous. But I appreciate that it's a great reminder that as parents, it's our job to be the adult and to set those boundaries. And so that message is so
Yeah,
important.
this message is just not for parents. It's for any adult who is in a youth's life, right? I agree also we should not have phones in the classrooms and schools, and I agree with that. But we also have to look at the demographic of the world we're talking about. And if I'm going to speak on the United States, there are schools out there that are public schools whose children they're the oldest in their households and they need a phone because their mom and dad or mom or a single parent is working 3 jobs and has not the ability to say, hey, we discussed this in the morning. This is what the plan is. And then now it's all changed. And now this young man or young girl who has to go pick up her brother or sister, who has to take them to, or she may have practice. And now we've got to be fluid. Life is fluidity. Come on. I'm so tired of, this is why the kids keep saying we're not listening to them. It's okay for an adult to have fluidity. It's okay for you to communicate what your needs are. But if I have needs, it's not. But then when they're 18, according to our government and our rules and regulations here, you're an adult. Go live your life. We've given them overnight. We've given them no guidelines. We've given them no teaching skills. We've given them nothing. But we tell the Gen Zs, oh, you need to learn how to interview. But do you, the adult who is actually interviewing them, know how they speak to one another? Have you actually listened to them? Or are we going to do traditionally what we've done and not change ways? So it's not just the phone. It's the constant communication, how to listen to these kids.
It's such an interesting thing to hear the entirety of the message. I was raised by military officers and very tough people and kind of suck it up and be tough, and kids should, very loving people, wonderful people. But the idea of listen to kids, hear what they have to say. I can hear so many people who raised me, not just my parents, but the entire community. I can hear so many of them say, give me a break. Kids just, we don't need to listen to them. They need to be, and what they hear is this coddling message. And your message is exactly the opposite. It is not about, it's about hearing to empower, hearing how if I'm going to teach you how to jump out of an airplane, I want to know how you learn. And if I can know how you learn, I'll be a better teacher. And what I hear you saying is listen to the kids is all about becoming better teachers, because we are teachers, whether we want to be or not.
Yep.
And it's not just the parents.
Right? It's not just for parents. It's guidance. It's giving them the right guidance. Look, we're looking for it all the time. We're always reading. I'm literally was reading an article this morning on mental health and in the school, and how I feel like we need more of that, more school counselors, more, because kids are leaving for therapy all the time and they're missing classes. If we bring back, but that's me getting guidance. How do I help a school district or a school system to build something out to do that? Why is it so different for a youth? And when I say a youth, I do mean kids 27 and under. As we all know, they're still not fully developed in their brains. So that is what a youth is. So these young women who are becoming mothers, they need guidance too,
That's
it's a true
point.
Yeah. Well, we both, so I have 4 kids. My oldest is 28, then I have 23, then I have 13, and I have 9. And I think about guidance with all of them when you just said that. And it's funny, my 28-year-old still looks to me for guidance. She's fully independent, and she has, as a mom of her own, and she, but that I actually think this is off topic. I know we, I don't want to take up. I know I think all of us need it to some degree. Like
We
I
do.
believe in mentoring and clinical and medical supervision and those things, but especially as the brain is developing, and I appreciate that this. I'm just going to be thinking a lot today about how do I understand my own kids' language better, not not because they're bringing me or forcing me into anything, but so that I can provide guidance in a more effective way.
Right. And that really goes to my place that I talk about a lot is these experts out there who talk about parenting experts and parenting styles. I think you just hit the nail on what I talk about quite often is you've got to listen to what your kids' needs are and how they're learning and how they're developing because not every style you talk about will work with them. I mean, if we talk about
Right.
them or ADHD or even just whatever you want to say that we see out there, not every style works with specifically that kind of disability or non-disability, right? Even when you're raising or guiding a child who doesn't have a disability, you've got to look at what their ways are for you to then give them guidance on how to be raised or guided, because we tend to take all these things that everyone in the world is saying, like you said, social media for also parents. We're listening to all these experts who I don't even know where they came from. First of all, where did the expert come from? I'm not even an expert and I've been trained for so many years. Like I'm constantly training myself, from other people who are doing research. I'm not always doing research. I can't be an expert, but I call myself, it's funny because everyone's like, oh, you're a parenting expert. No way am I a parenting expert. I don't even know how to parent my own kids. I got to figure that out. If I'm going to be a parenting expert, then my kids should be flourishing in life, which I hope they do. But I mean, they're young still, I'm still learning. And we just literally had a conversation on Sunday with my kids about one is so busy in her extracurricular activities, the other doesn't have so much, but they're like, well, she was on the video game and I'm sitting at home, but when she was gone, you were on the video game. So you're both not in comparable situations here. So that was like for me and my husband to like, okay, you guys have to realize it's not equal at the same time. And it sometimes may not happen at the same time. Just because she's home now and she's got some free time and she wants to watch a movie or TV, you may not get to because you just did for 2.5 hours, like it doesn't work that way. But that's the same thing when I talk about experts is like, you've got to figure out what your youth or your kid or your child needs for you to, and you hit that nail. It's you going and listening to them
Yeah.
so you can figure it out. I appreciate the people out there who are giving this guidance and advice, and I appreciate it because it may help somebody. Again, it will help someone. I'm not saying that, but take it home again before
Right.
you utilize what these things are.
I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you giving that kind of narrating through that conversation that every single one of us parents have had. And it doesn't matter how many doctorates you have or it doesn't matter what's in front of your name or after your name.
No,
This
We all
stuff
do
is
it.
universal.
Yeah.
We know that you are a busy doc on a super tight schedule. And so I want to honor that. And so as we're coming though towards our last minutes, I, we always like to have our guests have the last word. And I think about adults. So you're not even just parents. I was thinking about just parents, but you're so right. Adults. I think about there are a lot of young people that there are a lot. We work with clinical interns and there are young people in their 20s that we're influencing right today. So I'm thinking more broadly now. So but for those of us that are adults, if every adult could hear just one message, one thing is there one thing that we need to hear that the kids are saying they're saying we're not listening? What is the message that you would give to adults to help them hear what the next generation is saying.
So for the adults, right, the nucleus of this, right, to start this conversation with your youth or your adolescent or your child is to listen with intention. And if you listen with intention, the secret is that you're interested then. They'll see that. They will see that you're interested. And that interest for them makes you interesting. Because right now, they don't think we're interesting. And that right there is I'm going to take it to science, right? That's their dopamine effect. They're like, wait a minute, this adult actually wants to hear my voice and what I have to say. So if we listen with intent and intention, we will now create interest in them. They will feel that they're interested in us. Because right now they don't think we're interesting at all.
That's enormous. That's enormous. And only, I to take all your academic degrees and put them aside, I think only a parent can know how critical that is to us, that we can create a moment where our kids will know that we're interested in them and they'll be interested in us. It's such a powerful thing. Thank you. Dr. Zee, people are listening to this. They're going to want to know how to find you, how to find out more about you. Where can people find out more about you, about your books, about all of you?
We're in the process of still working on listening to the kids. It will come soon. We're also in the process of a couple really cool projects that should be coming out. And for right now, social media, which I hate and love to say, but it is Dr. Z _MD. Also, I'm at Dr. ZMD on my website, but also, just DM me if there's any questions, anything. One of the things that I love to do is I love to talk to the kids. So if the schools are looking for it, if athletic groups are looking for it, if theater group, anybody who's like, hey, I want you to come in and just do a peer-to-peer counseling on this topic with my kids, let me know. Because once we learn from the youth, then we can give you, the teacher, the administration, the coach, the theater, anybody, even the youth leader, we can then give you the right guidances to help your students, to help your youth actually have a better future for them.
I love that.
Love it.
I love it.
Dr. Zee, thank you so much for your time and for being here. Thank you, Dr. D.
Thank you, Dr. D.
I will have fun have fun as always.
Yes.
Great conversation.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody who's joining us, whether you're watching or listening. Hope you had a great time, and we'll see you next time on The Hanley Effect.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for The Hanley Effect. To learn more about our programs, visit hanleyfoundation.org or call 844-502-4673.